Oh, there is renewed excitement around the Chiefs' kingdom going into Week 7. Yeah, it's Raiders week, but there's more to it this week, and maybe a chance to dial an area code you haven't dialed yet. This edition of Defending the Kingdom, called Area Codes and Zip Codes, is brought to you by your new best friend, Ticketmaster, because there's some awesome games coming up, and Ticketmaster can be your window to attend those games, home or road.
Mahomes in the pocket, darts it near side, caught, touchdown! Kansas City, Hollywood Brown is having a night.
Hi everyone, I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, along with Chiefs team reporter, senior team reporter, Matt McMullen. Now, wait a minute. 5-1-4? What does that mean? Let's go through it really quickly. March the 15th, 2024. Here's your timeline. The Chiefs sign Hollywood Brown as an unrestricted free agent. Keep in mind, March of 24. Rashee Rice going into his second year in 2024. Excited for that year. And then Xavier Worthy drafted in late April of 2024 in the first round. I'll set it up that way. Hollywood is 5, Xavier Worthy is 1, and Rashee Rice is 4. Now take it from there.
Yeah, I remember one day at training camp. Let's see if I have the actual date. I saw three of them walking down the field. I'll put the photo on the podcast if you're watching it. So it's Hollywood on the left, Xavier in the middle, and Rashee on the right. 5-1-4. And I was thinking to myself, how awesome is this receiver core going to be? These guys are great. They complement each other well, all having a great camp. I can't wait to see Hollywood, Xavier, and Rashee all on the field at the same time. Well, it turns out that was on July 26, 2024. We are over a year later, and I think we're going to see them all on the field at the same time for the very first time as Chiefs. This is a big, big week, Mitch. We finally made it.
That's 23 regular season games, if you're counting at home, and 3 postseason games. They've never been together.
Never.
And this started in March of 2024. So it's exciting saying that we can dial up the area code here of 5-1-4 for the first time. And yes, it's Raiders week, and there's more. We got more area codes coming your way, and maybe even a zip code, because we're trying to fit all these numbers in here. But the excitement that you feel with these 3 guys.
Yeah, it's high. So think about, again, not having those 3 on the field at all at the same time is a bummer, but it's forced other guys to step into different roles. And I think we have an opportunity here to have maybe the best receiver core we've had with Patrick Mahomes, and that's saying something. So right now, the Chiefs are one of only 3 teams in the NFL to have 4 or more players with at least 220 receiving yards. Those players being Travis Kelce, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Tyquan Thornton. Who did I not mention? Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. So you have those 4 players who are all contributing, helping this team win, moving the chains, having great games. And then you add Xavier Worthy and a healthy Rashee Rice to the mix. It's just really exciting. And I love that Rashee is coming back at a time where it's not like, hey, Rashee, please save us. You know, it's not like the offense is sputtering, we're struggling, and we're all saying, well, we're going to add Rashee, and hopefully that fixes things. It's the total opposite, where this team has scored 28 or more points in 3 straight games. They've scored 95 points over their last 3 games. That's the most for the Chiefs in a 3-game span since the 2021 season. The offense is playing better than it's ever played over the last several years. And now you're adding a guy that we think is this team's #1 receiver to the mix. It's very exciting.
And before we go around the world, the other numbers that I like are the red zone numbers.
Yeah.
In the 3.5, now let's take it from halftime of the New York Giants game to the current spot. That includes, so that's 14 quarters. The Chiefs are 14 of 19 in the red zone in touchdown percentage. And of those 14, Matt, 8 different guys have touched the ball to score touchdowns. That's when you become really lethal to your opponents in the National Football League. Now, keep in mind, prior to this 14 for 19, it was 2 for 6. And so it has been a profound change. And when you can score like that in the red zone and attack the entire width and length of the field, even though it's compressed, you become really dangerous.
And how about Patrick Mahomes right now? He's playing at an MVP level. He leads the NFL in offensive touchdowns as of this recording with 15 of them. Right now, he's the MVP of the NFL. He's been unbelievable. We're so used to what he can do, but he's taken things up to an even higher level, I think, this season, and distributing the football all over the place to the weapons that we've talked about. It's just an exciting time right now to be a Chiefs fan. We've survived through this 6-game stretch to open the season where so many things happened. You have the Rasheed suspension. You go to Brazil to open the year against a tough divisional opponent. You have the Xavier Worthy injury just 3 snaps into that game. You have to play some of the best teams in the league. You have to play Philadelphia, Baltimore when they still had Lamar Jackson, play the Detroit Lions when they're hitting on all cylinders. And to get to 3-3 through that stretch and now add Rasheed back to the mix, just again, very exciting. So the Chiefs have survived so far. Now let's kick it into high gear.
We have so many Kingdom defenders around the world. I know that you've already looked up. What is the 514 area code? It's actually Montreal. So really, Lorraine Duvernay-Tardif, the Canadian doctor. People always said, why do you call him the Canadian doctor? Because he's a Canadian doctor.
He's a doctor
Okay.
and a Super Bowl champion.
So anyway, it's Montreal, so we can move on from there. But hang on. We want to go around the world because we cover all zones and codes and let's just go around the equator here. What do you have around the world? Because I've got some too. We had a phenomenal Monday night at the Chiefs Kingdom.
Yeah, I got 2 for you. First, though, I want to go to Montreal. I've never been there before. I was listening to the French call of the ALDS when the Blue Jays beat the Yankees, and these French broadcasters are going crazy. It's so interesting to me that Montreal is just like right there, and it's like, a little segment of France. Anyway, I want to go to Montreal.
Remember the Expos? Now they're the Washington Nationals. When they had the Expos, they would give like number 6, Matt McMullen.
And say it in
Parlez-vous
French.
français? They had to do it twice.
That's so cool. I love it. And one of the best logos in baseball, I think.
It was. Yeah.
Bring it back.
Rest in peace, Expos.
So I ran into Jim from California outside the stadium on Sunday. I was just walking to the stadium. I always do that. I like to walk from the team facility to the stadium on game day. It's like a quarter mile, whether it's like super cold or 80 degrees in mid-October like it was on Sunday. I love making that walk. But I ran into Jim from California. I said he listens to the show. And Jim, I'm glad you enjoyed an awesome game.
And how many times you get to, hey, that's Matt McMullen. Hey, Matt.
Sometimes it's, hey, you're that guy.
You're that
I've settled
guy.
into that role. You're that guy.
Hey, you want a beer,
Listen,
Matt? No, I got to work.
I wish I could. My other one, shout out to Vladimir in South Bend, Indiana, but he's originally from Kansas City. He remembers going to games with his dad growing up. In particular, he remembers going to one for his 15th birthday a long time ago. He doesn't remember the result of the game, but just remembers having a great time with his dad. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So shout out to you, Vladimir.
Love it. It's awesome. One thing is starting to happen now for Kingdom defenders. They will come to a game as a pilgrimage, and then they'll stay for the Monday night Chiefs Kingdom show. Mm-hmm. It was awesome on the Monday night show this week in Missions, where we had it at the High V. Fans are from San Diego, Maine, Oregon, and others, and a huge contingent from Germany.
Okay.
In fact, Elizabeth Bartos, and Martina Frankel, they're from Lübeck.
Okay.
So Hansestadt, Lübeck, brought me gifts. It was great.
What'd they bring you?
German beer.
Okay, there we go.
Oh yeah,
That's pretty cool.
And a cool little candle that we're going to use for the holidays. It's amazing.
Awesome.
It's just fantastic. Yeah, they're from Lübeck, Hansestadt, Lübeck. Then Mitch Dix, he goes, my name is the same as yours. Like, all right, Mitch Dix, Katie Dix, Ruby Dix, Sabrina Schmidt, and Dennis Schmidt, and all from Dusseldorf,
Okay, yeah.
home of the Rhine Fire.
Yeah. One of the best names in the German Football League. I love it.
It was awesome. I mean, we had a German night. Put the hammer down as Schlag the Hammer nieder. Instead of saying this is huge, it was this is gross in German, not like we have in English. But it was fantastic. It just gave me, in the flesh, we talk about it and joke about defending the kingdom, but now it's every game, Matt. You and I are seeing people that come from Laos 2 weeks ago to a game. I mean, it's crazy what's going on.
It's super cool. We've talked about this before. The Chiefs' expansion around the globe is special to us because we grew up in this area. We were born into this, and grew up with it, where the Chiefs were so important and special to us because they represented our area, right? To see people from around the world that have no connection to Kansas City and in many cases have never been here before, to see what we're all about and see how much fun that we have, and they want to be a part of this culture and this franchise. It's very cool. And for us to go to Germany a couple years ago, to go to Brazil a few weeks ago, and to see people, again, that otherwise have no connection to Kansas City, but to be super fired up about the Chiefs. They want to talk about Kansas City. They're wearing a Chiefs jersey. Always been really special to me. So all of you around the world, we can't believe that we get to do this and talk to you. So thanks for listening.
And you've been to Deutschland on multiple occasions. If you want to liven up a Chiefs Kingdom show and get you ready for Raiders Week, invite a bunch of Germans.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they were on it. They were having a great time and got everybody revved up. We have the 514 jerseys on for this portion of Defending the Kingdom, talking about the 514 area code. That means for the first time in a year and a half, we're going to have Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice on the field at the same time. But you know who else is excited about this is the Chiefs defense. Because the Chiefs defense knows, and this team this is the reason they've had 12 straight winning seasons and everything that's been done, and 6 straight AFC championships and 5 Super Bowls and winning 3 of those 5 Super Bowls. This is complementary football. There is no division or jealousy, which can happen easily, especially on a football team. The defense is really excited about this, and there's one defender that we're going to feature on this podcast that I'm triple excited about because he's now emerging. He's had so many big plays that people forget about, but Leo Chenal is starting to turn it on.
He's developed into a complete player who can do just about everything on the football field. Coming out of Wisconsin, we knew he could rush the passer with the best of them. He could stop the run. But people kind of question his coverage abilities. Can he be a great coverage linebacker? I think he's shown what he can do in coverage. You'll see we asked him about his interception on Lamar Jackson a few weeks ago. One of the most incredible plays I've ever seen, being sticky in coverage as a linebacker against an all-pro tight end and Mark Andrews, and then to have the wherewithal to flip your hips, turn around, and hold on to the ball, just phenomenal. But he was exceptional against the Lions as well, just consistently making plays. And quickly before we get to him, I just want to talk about our defense a little bit against Detroit because they were unbelievable against the Lions, and they're never going to get the credit they deserve for some reason. Since the beginning of the 2023 season, that was 40 games ago, a span of 40 games, this is the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL. No defense has been better in terms of allowing points since the beginning of the 2023 season. And that continued against the Lions because the Lions came in as the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL. They were averaging over 35 points per game. Take out their game against Green Bay in week 1, so their last 4 games, they were averaging over 40 points per game coming into that matchup against the Chiefs. They scored 52 points, 38 points, 34 points, and 37 points in those games. All right, think about that. That's unbelievable. They come into this game against the Chiefs, and for, only the 3rd time in their last 23 games, they're held under 20 points. Also, only the 3rd time in their last 23 games, they were held under 100 rushing yards. I mean, just amazing for this Chiefs defense to shut the door on Detroit. And again, this happened after we beat the Ravens, but people are going to say, well, Detroit's secondary was banged up. Detroit's secondary does not impact their offense. I'm pretty sure their offense still had Amon-Ra St. Brown, still had Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams. I could go on and on. I mean, their offense, besides their tackle situation, was kind of firing on all cylinders, and the Chiefs shut them down. It was the 2nd time this year that we've held what came in as the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL to 20 or fewer points. Did the same thing against Baltimore back in week 4. So this defense, we're going to keep saying it, they deserve way more credit than they ever get, and they showed it again on the national stage against Detroit.
Especially against those 2 runners, because those 2 runners are exceptional, and they're the great tag team of the National Football League. We mentioned it last week with Jonathan Taylor, who's eating the earth right now with the Colts. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs came into that game last week with 135 more when they combine yards than Jonathan Taylor. It puts it in perspective and really puts in perspective what the Kansas City Chiefs did in that game against the Lions. It also puts in perspective how really good – people forget about Leo Chenal.
Yeah.
He had the strip of Christian McCaffrey on the opening drive of Super Bowl 58. He had the block PAT in Super Bowl 57 that changed the complexion of that whole game and really changed the strategy. So many big plays.
Broncos game last year.
Blocked field goal. For Leo Chenal, he might be the most underrated athlete on this entire football team. Oh, yeah. The man with the one-handed interception we bring in now, the guy that's had more big plays that you don't know about or think about, but we'll remind you about, Leo Chenal. Great to have you with us. By the way, did you know your interception was shown at the Wisconsin-Iowa game?
I did not know that.
I had friends at the game representing both sides, and they went nuts because they had your pick up there at Camp Randall.
Got to represent, man. Got to.
That's awesome. Just how far you guys have come defensively since week one, and why has this changed? Because that performance against the Lions was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it. We talk about it, today too in team meeting. We just got to find that consistency. Obviously, we had plays, we wish we had back in crucial moments in those losses. But I just see a resilient team. It's a lot of guys that have been in the situations before where we're not doing well, and we have a resilient team. I'm like, guys are humble enough to all right, what do we need to fix week to week? And guys are stepping up to the challenge.
The second half of last week's game against Detroit, I think you guys showed that resiliency. I mean, that's the number one scoring offense in the NFL. You hold them to only 17 points. What went into that, particularly in the second half, of making sure that Detroit, they were trying to get rolling and they never could?
Yeah, I mean, first off, our offense was, helping us out a lot because, first half they ran the ball, just kept on running the ball, and, they only went to, 11 personnel with one tight end group, maybe on third down, that's about it. So they were running the ball and they were doing well, but we had some good halftime adjustments going into it, and just, certain things like tightening a defensive end here, just the little alignment things, and then again our offense was scoring, so we got them into more passing downs, and it worked out well for us.
But, Leo, it's really been about 2.5 years of defending the run. There have been the breakouts, the one Raven run of 71 yards, but what you did against Gibbs and Montgomery. But now here comes Ashton Genty, right? Raiders weed, here he comes. The guy's near the top of the league, actually is at the top in broken tackles. The key to defending the run and to do it consistently, because you guys have done it now for almost 3 years.
Right. I mean, the key is obviously for that dude wrapping him up, as you talked about the missed tackles. His yards per carry doesn't show amazing numbers, but he's breaking tackles. He's one of the best runners in the league, just off the eye test. In my opinion. So it's just guys holding their gaps, pressing the gaps. Because he has that patience too. So just everybody doing their jobs, firing all cylinders. Linebackers got to help out, get downhill, help out the D linemen.
I feel like you can do just about everything out there. You can stop the run, you can rush the passer, you can cover. Where do you think you've grown the most, though, over the last 4 years since you first got here?
I would say in the pass game, and covering and stuff, and a lot of it is just working on my eyes. Coach Spags, it's an eyes defense, pattern match defense, and that was a little adjustment to me. High school, college, you drop on a terminal 45-degree drop, and just kind of sit in a zone or even whatever it is. But just training my eyes, and just trusting my breaks is a huge thing because I feel like the athleticism, change of direction was always there, but the next step was just trusting myself and making those breaks on the ball.
Now he's just picking off Lamar Jackson. No big deal.
Against Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
So let's go back because you had the Juszczyk interception last year when he ran the boundary route at San Francisco, and I asked you about it. You were all fired up. The fact that, and then this one to get this interception, because people will say the offense will try to dictate it, right? We're going to get in this personnel. You have to be in base, or we'll put you in nickel or dime. Now they get you in base, and I go, no, we're going to throw against them when you're in base. How much of that are you guys starting to dispel? And how big was it to get that interception against Andrews?
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. And, back to that, it's we want to be in, our base personnel against whatever they're 12, 13, U personnel, which is 22, as much as possible because, the percentages say they're going to run the ball. But, it's all about, can I step up to the plate, when they're trying to scheme us up, whether it's putting the fullback, on the wheel route or Mark Andrews on a scramble. So, I think it's, an honor to be able to, for Spags, just to keep calling base, even though, we're playing against, a tight end group like the Ravens, the Jaguars, we've had a lot of great, sets of tight ends here. So it's definitely an honor and a privilege to be able to step on the field and, know I can make a play and, know I can step up to the plate when it comes time.
Now, we saw you in the 4-point stance on offense. Was that last year or 2 years ago? At some point. We're going to get some more of that at some point. You kind of telling Coach Reed, hey, I'm still here.
I'm definitely, tapping him on the shoulder a little bit. You never know what's going to happen. I'm ready for the death row package whenever it comes time. So, that'll definitely be fun.
That's awesome.
But we got to give you the ball in that.
Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see.
It's
I was a running back, so
Yeah.
it's just we'll see. Just patience. That's all.
Talking about broken tackles.
the Grantsburg Pirates, man. You guys are rolling it in the state of Wisconsin. What big play are you most proud of in your career? Because there's a lot of them that people have forgotten about. What's the biggest one that you say, okay, I'm most proud of this single play?
Just looking back on things, the Super Bowl games, the block kick, like those are all like super, game-changing plays and that I'm really, proud about. But I honestly think it's the interception, just because the emotional, the weight it carries. Because I was always told like I couldn't do certain things, and some guys, I mentioned this before. Some guys said like I'm never going to get better, at coverage, which was crazy to me. So. Just to be able to not only prove to others but prove to myself, like, hey, you know what, they're wrong, and it's up to me, like, just to prove it.
During the preseason, we were meeting with Coach Reed, just kind of going through the roster, and when it got to you, he just goes, "Leo is a beast. That's what he is. He's just a beast." I mean, Coach Reed's one of the greatest coaches of all time. When you hear a coach like that saying that about you, what's that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, his weights carry a lot. They hold a lot of weight. Whether it's he's yelling at you, stopping to practice to, call you out, in the middle of training camp and, you're out of breath, that holds a lot of weight. And when he compliments you, you're listening, whatever he's saying, you're listening, and, you don't just take it with a grain of salt. So it's definitely an honor. It's really cool, to hear that.
I know you're proud of being a dad. We'll close it out this way. Worst poopy diaper you ever changed?
Oh my gosh.
You've had some nasty ones, I'm guessing.
Oh man, when they're young, man, you don't know where that thing's shooting. So you're like 3 diapers in, you're like, finally. So you're just hoping this is the last one. I'm out.
Tap out. You're tapping out. That's
done.
4 diapers.
I'm done.
That's it. Hey, he's the only guy in 32 years, and Matt told you this, in camp that I saw him rep inside OLDL and then sprint over to the other field and be in coverage on 7-on-7.
Here we go.
That's our guy, Leo. Leo Chenal, just incredible. And he just continues to grow in every part of his game. I just think he's underrated and awesome.
Yeah, I think he's one of those players that 20 years from now, when we all look back on this Chiefs dynasty, right, you look at the roster and be like, man, they had a lot of really good players. And Leo is one of those guys that, for whatever reason, doesn't get a lot of national attention. But if you watch the games, you understand how important he is to our defense.
He'll show up at some reunion coming off his skier steed. He'll be in like camo and showing up and just having the time of his life and give us all the biggest hugs and crush our ribs. That's Leo, though, and awesome, and him and his family. That's terrific. So 514 is not the only area code we can call. We can also call the 980 for Juju Smith-Schuster, who's having an incredible year, whether he touches the ball or not. And then Tyquan Thornton, who going into last week had the best yards per catch average in the National Football League.
So over a full football season and going into the playoffs, it's a long grind. And you need to rely on a lot of different players. And the best teams are the ones that have players who can step into roles and kind of, you don't skip a beat because they know what they're doing and they can handle that role. Well, in kind of a crazy, weird way, not having Xavier Worthy and not having Rashee Rice for much of the first couple games of this season helped Juju and Tyquan Thornton step into roles where they were needed, and they both came through. And now I think when you have the full complement of weapons, they know that they can go in there, they can get the job done. Patrick Mahomes has confidence in both of them, and at some point we'll need both of them, even when we have Xavier and Rashee running at full speed to help us win. And because of what happened early this season, I think they'll be ready for those moments. I mean, what can you say about Tyquan the first couple weeks? I mean, and even I think against the Lions, he didn't have a catch, but if you go back and watch the film, he's running these routes downfield. He's proven this season already that he can catch the football deep downfield, and Patrick Mahomes will throw it and will complete it. So you have to respect it, and that opens things up underneath where other players were having great games. And same thing for Juju. We could talk about Juju forever, but the things he does for this team does not get nearly enough credit.
No, it's what Juju's doing without the ball that is almost as important as what he's doing with the ball. Now, both guys are what I've noticed, and there's things I notice when I watch the game video that I can't notice during play-by-play. You just can't. You got to follow the ball. I told Juju the door hinge. He's so incredible at influencing the play when he does not have the ball. He might be the best in the NFL or top 5 in doing that. But there's 3 things that I've noticed in both of these guys. And it's a great point that you have in the fact that they've been able to develop this even more without having the 514 area code out there. And that is spatial awareness, playing with Pat beyond the play, and then recognizing coverages. Now, Juju's a pro. He's been around a long time. But the play he had against the Lions, where it was an ad-lib play by Patrick, he knows where to go, find the void, and it turns into a 30-yard play because he can break tackles. And then the same thing with Taekwon. Go back to 2 weeks ago in the game in Jacksonville. His 3 catches were all 3 very different. The cover zero look where he has the against man-to-man single coverage. The spatial awareness, ball, defender, sideline. It's a acquired trait. And then another one where he was able to run the route after Pat did the play within a play. That's all requirements in this to be in a wide receiver room on this team, and we're seeing it. That's why it's so exciting to unleash all of this all at the same time.
I think the throw that Mahomes made to Taekwon early in the Jags game on 3rd down when the pressure was in his face and he just threw it up there and gave Taekwon an opportunity to go get it, and Taekwon got it and advanced the ball. We forget about these things because the Chiefs lost that game in pretty heartbreaking fashion. But in my mind, that was maybe the moment this season where I'm like, the Chiefs offense might be totally back here because Patrick Mahomes has total faith in his receivers that he knows that they're going to go up there and get the football. And yeah, I'm with you. I mean, seeing what they did against Detroit was awesome. And in many ways, the Detroit game was great because the one issue for the offense against the Jags was they did not play well on the final possession of the first half or the first possession of the second half. Totally different story against Detroit. They executed the double dip to perfection, and that's the main reason the Chiefs were able to kind of put the pressure on Detroit because from that point on, Detroit was down double digits. So this offense just continues to get better and better, I think. They were so efficient against the Lions, and consistently, you just kind of had that confidence they're going to make the play happen, no matter the down and distance. Let's keep that going here moving forward and adding Rasheed back to the mix.
And we don't want to leave anybody out. Jalen Royals, Nico Remigio, Jason Brownlee, but we also have a zip code we can use. That's 6 numerals, right?
Yep.
So you got the 8783, and I'm going to put in the 24 zip code.
Oh, yeah.
Because Brashard Smith is involved in this discussion too and will be in the weeks ahead. So we've got area codes and zip codes. We also have Ari Wolfe, who's keeping a close eye on our opponents, especially in the AFC West.
Yeah, this segment's always a lot more fun after the Chiefs win. I had a chance to catch up with Ari and talk about some stuff going on around the NFL.
Hello and welcome to week 7 of Out West with Ari Wolfe. It's the podcast within the podcast. I am joined as always by my buddy Matt McMullen. We are into week 7, but before we get right to it, let's just talk for a moment about the Chiefs' performance against the Lions. I think it's the most complete performance in all 3 phases that I've seen from the Chiefs in a really long time. Makes me incredibly bullish on the rest of the season. But wow, did it feel good to watch that team take care of a Lions team 30-17. I imagine it was a very happy Arrowhead at the end of the game.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's some of the most fun I've had during a regular season game in a while. I think for the team to perform like that in all 3 phases against an opponent like that in Detroit, you can make an argument coming into that game, that was the best team in the NFL, and the Chiefs beat him by 2 touchdowns. So it was exciting. I get the Lions had some injuries on defense. That's football. The Chiefs did a great job of taking advantage of it. But one thing that Mitch and I have been talking about is the Lions were pretty healthy on offense. They had all their weapons out there, and the Chiefs held the number 1 scoring offense in the league to just 17 points. So all around, it was incredible. Now the challenge is just keeping that going here moving forward.
Okay, one last note on the Chiefs before we get into the AFC West. I remember when we learned about Rashee Rice's suspension, it was going to be 6 weeks. I thought to myself, but I didn't want to say it out loud because I didn't want to seem gloom and doom. I thought, the Chiefs might be 3-3. Now, how they got to 3-3 is different than I might have expected, but 3-3 coming off of that win feels pretty darn good.
Yeah, I'm with you. If you told us before the year you'd be 3-3, I'd be like, well, I don't know. I think, 4-2 at least. But considering the circumstances of this season, of obviously not having Rasheed, of having to go all the way to Brazil to begin the year, which was a great experience, but it's difficult circumstances. Losing Xavier Worthy 3 snaps into that game in Brazil. You don't have him against the Eagles. numerous primetime games, tough opponents. You have to play Baltimore when they still have Lamar. Got to play the Detroit Lions in a primetime game, and you still find a way to be 3-3. It's a big deal, and obviously, the Chiefs aren't going to celebrate being 500, but they have bigger goals than that. But considering the circumstances, I think we're in a great spot. Now it's about attacking the rest of the season. We've survived this early stretch of the year, which was difficult. A lot of teams
Yep.
wouldn't have made it out of this at 3-3. Now let's get over 500 finally on Sunday.
All right, let's get into the AFC West because that's the main thing we do here on it. That's why we call it Out West. Well, it was a big week for the AFC West. Everybody's a winner. Everybody in the AFC West came up with wins. Let's start at the top of the division with the Chargers. They beat the Dolphins. Justin Herbert, one of the most heroic plays we've seen all season. It looked for sure like the Dolphins were going to beat him. It looked like Phillips had him wrapped up for the sack. But somehow Herbert was like Big Ben Roethlisberger. They just couldn't bring him down. He gets it to Lad McConkey. They get the big play. They get the field goal. A game where they were solid, but they didn't play their best football on the road across the country. They come up with the win. I think Herbert is starting to show more and more that he can be clutch under pressure. Before, I didn't see that. This to me was a statement win that they keep finding ways to win late in games.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it shows how difficult Herbert is to bring down. I don't think
Yeah,
people realize how big that dude is. And
he's
yeah,
huge.
a lot like Big Ben, like
Yep,
you got to make sure you take him down. I think we've learned that with Josh Allen over the years, and with Herbert, it's a
yep,
similar deal. You know what really stood out to me in that game, though, and this has been something that I've noticed really over the last year, is Lad McConkey is going to be a problem for a long time. That
yep,
dude is really good, and in a lot of ways he finds a way to get open, much like Travis Kelce does, where whenever it's a big play in the game, a big moment, you would think the defense would be zeroed in on that guy. Like he's the guy you got to cover, and somehow he ends up having no one around him for like 10 or 15 yards. I mean, he's that good in his route running and his feel for space. I give him a lot of credit. And McConkey, as good as Herbert was at the end, McConkey made that play where he
he
broke
did.
some tackles and got deep down the sideline, set up that game-winning field goal. So I think my main takeaway, outside of Herbert having a really nice year, he definitely is, but McConkey continues to be, I think, one of the league's better receivers. I wish he wasn't in our division, but I do respect him.
I do respect him. He's crafty. I think his football IQ is really high, kind of knows where to be. Certain players just know where to find that soft part of the defense. He is definitely an elite young player. All right, next up, the Broncos. The Broncos go overseas. They win a game 13-11. For football purists, your eyes may have been bleeding during portions of that game. It was not a particularly pretty game. Nick's just 19 of 30, 174 yards. It was the Broncos defense that won the game, 9 sacks. They made life very difficult for Justin Fields. I don't really know what to take away from this one other than that, look, the Broncos, if they want to be a playoff team, you got to beat the Jets. And it was a long road trip, right? They go to Philly, win, then go to London and win. So that's what Sean Payton asked of his team. It was not a win that they're going to put out for, an Emmy Award, but they get the win and they remain tied for first place.
I wonder if there was anyone in the crowd that was kind of like dragged along by their big football crazy friend, and this was that person's first ever time watching pro football, and they're like, I don't really get what all the hype's about. This isn't very entertaining.
It's not that good.
Yeah, I'm sure a few of those people existed. Yeah, ugly game. Listen, the Chiefs have won games like that before where it's ugly, you grind it out. The Broncos deserve credit for finding a way to win. The Jets defense, though, played well enough to win that game. Jets
Yeah.
defense played well. The Jets offense just completely let them down. And they had a chance there at the end where you're at midfield. Get like 15 yards, you're in field goal range. They couldn't do it. But yeah, the Broncos pass rush is legit with all those sacks. I think they have
Yeah.
30 sacks now on the season. I think the second place team has 20 sacks. So the pass rush is incredible. That'll be a problem here moving forward. But I think my main takeaway is the Jets offense is really struggling and the Broncos pass rush is really good.
Yeah. All right. To the final remaining AFC West team, the Raiders get a win. They get a win at home against the Titans 20-10. Not a lot of offense in this one. The two teams combined for about 450 yards of offense. Geno just okay. I know a lot of people were kind of hot on Tennessee coming off their win in Arizona, including you, my friend. Uh, but the Raiders did find a way to win a game that you sort of have to win if you're going to get, 6, 7 wins, whatever they're going to end up with. It wasn't really a pretty game, but it was a must-have. It ended up being the final game for Coach Callahan. So do you take anything away from the Raiders? I know that they're the opponent coming up this week. I didn't see anything that instilled much fear in me about the Raiders and their future.
Well, I'll say this. If you're going to have opinions, you have to own up when those opinions are completely wrong and incorrect. My prediction about the Titans last week did not play out the way I thought. Actually, their coach got fired. So not quite what I was expecting going into that
Right?
game. The Titans, they got talent, but they just aren't putting it together. And you fumble at like the 10-yard line, let the Raiders then score a touchdown off of that. Raiders deserve credit for being in control of that game and handling the Titans. But yeah, not a great football game overall. It did show, though, Ashton Jeanty, one thing that Mitch and I will talk about in a little bit. Ashton Jeanty, even though he doesn't have like the traditional numbers, continues to impress me because he's breaking all these tackles. He has like over 350 yards after first contact this year. That's second best in the NFL, leads the NFL in broken tackles. So for me watching that game, it's a matter of, yeah, the Raiders aren't overall scoring a lot of points, but they do have good players that will make plays, and the Chiefs will need to shut those guys down here in this game, especially Ashton Jeanty.
I actually think they're kind of built as almost a cold weather team, but yet they play in a dome, right? Because if they played out in terrible weather in December, you could see with Jeanty, you might find ways to manufacture wins. All right,
Yeah.
let's get to what I thought was the very best game of last week. And yesterday, when we were communicating, I said, let's wait and see what happens on Monday night. Well, the Monday night game delivered. The Bears go to Washington. And for those of you who don't remember, that was the Hail Mary game last year that literally changed Washington's season and frankly ruined the Bears season. So to me, while it was a week 6 game, it had all this extra juice to it. I felt like it was a statement game, particularly for Chicago. My takeaway is Jaden Daniels was not only human, he really cost his team. I mean, his red zone interception was a terrible throw. It was late. And then the fumble at the end of the game, just, if that happens to somebody else in a different market, they're getting blown up, right? I mean, people are calling for their jobs. I mean, you just can't have that. So I thought the Bears showed fight. I thought Caleb Williams is now progressing. I think Ben Johnson's having a positive effect. But if you watch that game, Washington should have won that game and the Bears ended up winning it. So redemption for the Bears. Washington, I'm wondering if this will have any lingering problems. Those turnovers from Jaden Daniels really, really surprised me. What did you think of the Monday night game?
Yeah, well, it was part of a great sports night in general because the Falcons upset Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then I was flipping back and forth between the Commanders game and then the first game of the NLDS or NLCS between the Dodgers and the Brewers, which I don't know if you caught the end of that, but it was an incredible finish
Great
where
game.
the Dodgers hung on. But anyway, right when the Dodgers game ended, I go back to the Commanders game, and the Commanders appear to be in control of it. I mean, just a couple minutes left. You're going to run the clock out, try to prevent Caleb Williams from getting the ball back. And if he does, he'll have to go the length of the field to get in field goal range. Well, yeah, I mean, I get it, rainy night, but you can't fumble the ball in that situation.
No.
I mean,
Get under center if you have to, right? Why can't you get under center? Like, just don't even bring that, in. You don't have to be in the shotgun. Just make it as safe a play as possible.
Yeah, you literally let the game slip away. And credit to the Bears. I thought DeAndre Swift was great in that game.
Awesome.
And they were kind of playing for that long field goal at first. And it's like, is this a great idea? And then Swift ended up picking up like 25 yards to make it a chip shot. Good for Jake Moody. I mean, that's got to be a tough life as a kicker. You're drafted high. You get cut and you get onto a new team, you miss a kick and people are already calling for your job. Like, honestly, good for him for making that kick there at the end. But yeah, I'm curious to see how Washington responds because, one thing that we've talked about a lot over the years is it's one thing to surprise everybody when you're all of a sudden pretty good and no one really expected it. It's something else to be good when people do expect it. And it's difficult. And how do you deal with the adversity of the season? This is kind of one of those crossroads moments for this Commanders team and Jaden Daniels. We'll see how he handles it, and he'll be here in a couple weeks. So should be interesting to watch how they handle it this week.
Right, because the honeymoon suddenly feels like it's over after last night, right? You've got this great star quarterback. He was a contender for the MVP last year. You come into this season with all this hope, and you missed a couple games because of injury. You can't hold that against him. But last night you can hold against him. And yeah, he's going to be hearing from the fans in a way he hasn't so far in his young NFL career. All right, let's go to the AFC West games coming up. I know you and Mitch will do a great job on Raiders Chiefs. The only thing I'll say about that, I cannot wait to see Rashee Rice play. Watching him at training camp, the guy is a beast. I mean, he is ready to take off. I think this offense, seeing them, score 30 points against the Lions without him just is really encouraging. He, to me, is the alpha receiver. So you've got him now leading that wide receiving core. It's now suddenly looks like a really deep, talented wide receiver room. I'm going to talk about Patrick in my final thoughts. So I'll leave that for later, but I'm very, very bullish on the Chiefs at home against the Raiders. Again, I know you'll get into it with Mitch. Let's go Colts Chargers. I wouldn't have predicted this, but this is a darn sexy game all of a sudden, right? I mean, the Colts look legit. Daniel Jones has been playing great. The Chargers a bit banged up, but like this is suddenly a really important AFC game, one that I don't think going into it we expected. Now, the Colts have had a favorable schedule. They've played 4 of their 6 at home. They've only played 2 road games. They went on the road at the Titans, which I don't know how much credit you're going to give them for that. And their only other road game they lost at the Rams. So this will be a stern test. I know you at one point thought the Colts would go 17-0. I'm curious, what do you think the Colts are going to do against the Chargers in what suddenly seems like a really significant AFC matchup?
We're almost to Halloween, and I still just find myself looking at the Colts like numbers and rankings and everything. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around it still. They are the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL going into week
Yep.
7, averaging 32 points per game. And they are the number 4 scoring defense in the NFL, allowing just 19 points per game. I mean, we just have to respect it. This is phenomenal what they've been able to do really in all 3 phases. And yeah, I think going up against the Chargers is a real test for them. Curious to see how they handle that. The Chargers remain beat up. And even though they pulled off that win against the Dolphins last week, I mean, the Dolphins were right there for that win. They take the lead with less than a minute remaining. So the Chargers, I don't think, are necessarily playing their best football right now. I think that's fair to say, even though they got the win last week. Can the Colts take advantage of that and keep playing like the buzzsaw that they apparently are? That's what I'm hoping for. I'd love to see the Chargers lose this game because the Chiefs can get this win against the Raiders. The Broncos can lose, and we'll talk about them here in a minute. We'll be talking about a 3-way tie atop the AFC West. But yeah, I'm curious to see the Colts again. I mean, they found it with this running offense and with Daniel Jones, and their defense has been great. I'll see if they can do it again.
I mentioned, all right, the final AFC West game to look at, we've got the New York Giants taking on the Denver Broncos. Now, if you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, well, this is just a walk away for the Broncos. They just take him. Suddenly, the Giants have a quarterback that's got some juice in Jackson Dart. They've got a little bit of momentum. I think they're feeling themselves a little bit. Keep in mind, the Broncos, again, just went to Philadelphia and overseas. They're playing a team with a losing record. This sort of sets itself up to me as potential trap game. The Giants have nothing to lose. I'm trying to make a game that I otherwise wouldn't think is all that sexy. And I'm trying to convince myself that it's got some appeal, especially if Jackson Dart is for real.
First of all, how often does a team play the New York teams in consecutive weeks? It's pretty unique, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And here we go. So there's a lot to talk about here because watching the Giants against Philadelphia, like they dominated that game. Like dominated it. So
Yeah.
I am kind of looking at the Giants in a different way. And in a sense, what New York does so well kind of does match up with what the Broncos do well on defense in terms of how I think the Giants could take advantage of the aggressiveness of Denver because Denver has this great pass rush, number 2 scoring defense in the NFL. Well, when you have a player like Scadaboo, who is a tough runner, he's going to get extra yards, and you can use him in the screen game as well. I mean, that's the quarterback's best friend when you're trying to keep a really good pass rush at bay. So I think if the Giants can keep this game close, if their defense can keep them in it, which I think they can, because that pass rush for New York is also legit. If it's a close game and the Giants stay committed to the running game and Jackson Dart can scramble for some big yards and some big moments, they certainly have a chance. I am curious how New York handles that big win against Philadelphia, how they move forward here. Like, no one really expected that. Now everyone's like, oh, you guys are kind of good. Can you do it again? Let's see if they can. But I do think if New York can commit to the running game and Dart can have another nice game, they might be able to move the ball on this pass rush, but we'll see.
The other wrinkle I think it's important with Jackson Dart is his mobility, right? So he can run with the football. Again, something when you're facing a good pass rush, if your quarterback can both either escape the pocket or on a designed RPO and he sees an opening, he is a real asset in the running game. So I think decision-making by Jackson Dart will be critical to see how well they move the ball. All right, so those are your games in AFC West coming up this week. Now to my game of the week. It's the Monday night game. We're talking Bucks 2 weeks in a row in the game of the week. They're playing in Detroit against a Detroit team that's probably feeling like, uh-oh, like if we want to have a chance for a top seed, this is a huge game. For the Buccaneers, I don't think I would have believed you if you'd have told me at the beginning of the year that Baker Mayfield would be an MVP candidate. Not only is he playing like an MVP, it's the way he's leading that team, his toughness, his moxie, the way he leads. And we talked about it last week. Like, I kind of found it annoying when he was a rookie and a second year guy. Now at 30, it looks great on him. This is a huge clash in the NFC. What are your early thoughts on the Bucks and the Lions?
It's funny you mentioned that about Baker because I was talking to Hollywood Brown about that, about Baker's kind of whole vibe the other day. And I was like, how much fun was that to play with Baker Mayfield? And he's like, it's a lot of fun, but I think Baker's kind of figured out how to do the whole trash talking thing. Like maybe back in college, it was a little unhinged at times,
Right.
like Baker, stop. But now he's figured it out. And yeah, I mean, those guys in Tampa Bay follow him. Like they love him, right? And it's a cool story to see kind of how he's bounced around and how he's really found a home now in Tampa. And they've dealt with some injuries in their receiver core, like injuries really all over their team and haven't skipped a
Yeah.
beat. It should be a great game because it's funny how quickly things change in the NFL. Last week, Detroit is, like I said, I mean, everyone's saying this is the best team in football. And now
Right.
you can make the argument that like this is kind of like a must-win game for them to keep pace with Tampa. So it should be a great game in the NFC. I think these are the two best teams in the NFC right now, and curious to see if Detroit can bounce back after the loss against us, particularly on defense.
One note to tag onto that, how things change so quickly in the NFL. 2 weeks ago, the Bills and the Eagles were the only undefeated teams. And I felt like a lot of people were ready to say that's the Super Bowl. Now, 2 weeks later, both of them have huge questions. They've got real issues to deal with. And I don't think anybody at the moment has them as the best team in either conference. So that's the beauty of the NFL. Week to week, things change a lot. All right. To my final thought this week, and this is really like a direct conversation with all you diehard Chiefs fans. So when you love a team, or in particular, you love a player, and I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes here, your expectations for him are through the roof. I mean, we talk about Mahomes magic, like we expect it every game. I remember a couple of years ago, I got the opportunity to go to Green Bay to do a regular season game. And I was actually, my feelings were kind of hurt that there was no Mahomes magic and they didn't win the game. So that's the standard set. So what I'm getting to is we've seen glimpses of Mahomes magic this year. And then this past week, the way he performed against the Lions, you saw the magic again. The Mahomes magic was back. The swagger, the certainty in his eyes. I just think for all the fans, you've got a superstar, an icon, a guy who might be the greatest player in the history of the sport we all love. When you don't see him play at that incredibly high level for a while, you don't doubt that it's there, but you miss it. And so what I'm saying is I miss seeing that swagger, the way that Patrick looks when he knows exactly what's happening out there. It was a beautiful thing on Sunday night watching Patrick do his thing. So my final thought is, Patrick, I've always loved you. I've always believed in you, but wow, was it awesome to see you play to the best of your ability. And that's my final thought to you, Matt.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I just want to tag it really quickly because I totally agree. To see in that game, like whenever Detroit would make a game of it, like particularly in the fourth quarter, Goff hits Laporta for that incredible touchdown, and now it's only a 3-point game, and they kind of have the momentum going their way.
Mhm.
But you just knew Mahomes is going to go down there and score.
Right.
And that's what's made the Chiefs so inevitable over this run is that if Mahomes has time, more often than not, he's going to beat you. And to have that confidence in the sideline and in the stadium, it's a
Right.
special thing. It doesn't last forever, and we need to enjoy it because it's a lot of fun when you have that guy on your football team. My parting thought, not quite as epic as that one. It's more a selfish one. I might catch some flack for this actually because I am a fall weather, winter weather kind of guy. I'll just be
Okay.
honest. I don't really love the summer that much. I like being in pullovers and hoodies and
Okay.
quarter zips and all that. And I feel like summer in Kansas City has just been never ending. At kickoff against the Lions, it was 81 degrees. We are in mid-October. It is 81 degrees. I just want some nice, crisp fall weather. And the good news is, at noon on Sunday against the Raiders, it's a high of 65 degrees. This is my kind of football weather. So I'm fired up for some fall football weather. That's my
I
final
love it.
thought
And
for you.
before we go, I got to give thanks to Rob Alberino. This is just the beginning of my Chiefs swag. I'll be representing the Chiefs with some gear every week now on the podcast. So we've covered week 7. Matt, I greatly appreciate your time. So much fun talking football with you. Hope the Chiefs have a great week. And that's it for Out West with Ari Wolfe for this week.
So whatever area code we're going to call, 514-980, or the zip code for identifier of 878324. We don't want to leave out. We got another one. We can put in 102985. Don't leave Robert Tunyon out of this, because some play's coming from Robert Tunyon. You wait for it. We all know it's coming because he can do it. We saw it in the preseason. But it's not just any week, as we said last night on the Kingdom Show. It's Raiders week. And here we are facing the Raiders. And if you want to take them for granted, then I will make you watch every piece of video from the 2023 Christmas Day game. Beating the Chiefs without completing a pass in the second, third, or fourth quarter. So if you want to get smug and think that, oh, wait, the Raiders are 2-4 and we can wipe these guys, stop it. Stop it, because I'm going to start with Ashton Jeanty, because we talked to Leo Chenal about it. And Ashton Jeanty, when we saw them draft him out of Boise State, and they made a very big attempt to make that draft pick happen. But now Jeanty leads the NFL with 15 broken tackles. We can make comps, if you will. I see some Darren Sproles in him. His powerful lower body. He's not a super tall guy. This is a hard guy to tackle. And if he's getting off the bus with Max Crosby, then you better deal with the Raiders.
Yeah, looking at Jeanty, this is where the traditional stats don't really tell the full story, but the advanced metrics do. So he's 9th in the NFL in rushing right now with 424 yards. I think he's hovering like around 4 yards per carry, maybe a little bit under 4 yards per carry. You look at that and say, like, he's not having a great year. But you said it. I mean, he has 376 yards after contact this season. That's second most in the NFL, behind only Jonathan Taylor. And it's funny, you mentioned the 15 missed tackles. Those are all calculated differently in different places. So I looked at Pro Football Focus. They give him 26 missed tackles, also the most in the NFL of any running back. So when you're looking at this Raider team that's 29th in scoring offense right now, averaging only 17.2 points per game, yeah, it's easy to say, oh, they just haven't been very good. Well, kinda, and we'll dig into why, but they have some really good players, and it begins with Ashton Jeanty. You cannot let Ashton Jeanty have a huge day in this game, because the challenge for the Chiefs going into this game is you just played great against the Detroit Lions. Maybe your best football game of the year. Everyone's excited. You cannot have a letdown against the Raiders, because the record might not say it, but they're still very talented.
The perplexing thing about the Raiders to this point has been Geno Smith's interceptions. That's where you go. That goes right to the top of the list in the fact that he has 10 interceptions. Let me tag one thing on Jeanty, because last year the Raiders were just terrible in the run game. They were 200 yards less rushing than 31st in the league. So they were dead bottom, way bottom. They go draft Jeanty. That has changed. In fact, Jeanty, among rookie running backs in Raiders history, with what he has done in scrimmage yards in his first 6 games of his career, only Marcus Allen or Josh Jacobs in Raiders history has been better than Ashton Jeanty. So it gives you an idea of his talent, his ability, and his ability to create plays that aren't necessarily created to be big plays. You're looking at 10-plus runs and other matters. He's near the top or at the top in the league. But the giveaways by Geno Smith, 6 of his 10 interceptions this year have been without pressure or being blitzed. Now, we don't know if Brock Bowers is going to play or not. He's last year's rookie phenom for the Raiders, and I both think he's terrific. He's the new Travis Kelce of the NFL. But the interceptions, and Geno Smith's been capable. He's won a lot of games as a starting quarterback, especially in those 4 years as a starter with the Seahawks. But he only had one attempt over 10 yards against Tennessee, so it looks like they've tried to kind of condense things for him. His total quarterback rating is 37.1, 31st in the league. But he's capable of getting it clicking.
Yeah, we've seen Geno Smith have a lot of success in the NFL, and he's with his guy, and Pete Carroll, who knows, what he can do better than anybody. And Chip Kelly's there calling the plays, obviously been around a long time. Kind of surprising so far for Geno, because I think the Raiders, in their mind, they have these young players in Jeanty and Bowers, and you plug in a veteran quarterback to kind of stabilize things. Well, Geno struggled this year for the reasons that you said. The giveaways is the primary reason this Raider offense hasn't really been able to move the ball. The other being their red zone offense has really struggled. This is the number 31 red zone offense in the NFL. They're only scoring touchdowns at a 39% clip. So they're talented. They have good players, and at times they've moved the football. Just a lot of times, instead of a touchdown, they're either having a red zone field goal or turning the football over. And for the Chiefs in this game, they got to keep that going in both those categories. Got to make sure you take the ball away from Geno Smith and make sure they don't score when they make it to the red zone. Because, again, you can't let Las Vegas hang around in this game. And that was the issue with the Jacksonville game. The Chiefs had numerous opportunities a couple weeks ago to put that game away, and they couldn't do it. To their credit, against Detroit, they did. Detroit pulled within a field goal early in the fourth quarter, and I'm sure a lot of people were saying, okay, here the Lions go. Well, the Chiefs' defense shut the door, and the offense also shut the door by keeping pressure on Detroit. Got to see a similar performance here in this game from the Chiefs. Turn the football over from the Raiders' offense and stop them in the red zone, because those are the two areas the Raiders have struggled all year long.
And defensively, they've struggled. But if Max Crosby gets off the bus, nobody's played more snaps than Max Crosby, at least on a percentage among defensive linemen. He's out there all the time, and he can also wreck a game. Where we saw the 99-yard pick six against Jacksonville flip that game. The Raiders have the ability to take the ball away, but none more profound than Max Crosby, who's one of the most difficult guys in this league to block. And the Chiefs have struggled to block him and try to influence him. Like, he kind of knows the Chiefs' tricks. And it's kind of interesting back and forth how the Chiefs' offense, and Pat in particular, were like, well, we know your tricks, Max, and then Max will do the trick beyond the trick. It's like a battle of superheroes. But Max Crosby is a force and has to be dealt with.
And he's super old school. Like, he just absolutely despises us, which I appreciate it. That's how Chiefs and Raiders should be. I think it's great. And, he's a great player. This Raiders defensive front in general can get after the quarterback. They have 14 sacks this year. Crosby leads the way with 4 of those. Also has 25 pressures. But second-year defensive tackle Jonah Laulu.
That's close.
Yeah, it's close enough. He's been pretty good for him. He's 4 sacks already.
Yeah.
And then Malcolm Kuntz is still on this team. And you brought up the Christmas Day game earlier in the podcast. Last time we saw Malcolm Kuntz, he had 3 sacks on Christmas Day. Block Malcolm Kuntz. Don't allow these guys to blow up the day.
Yeah, but you got to deal with Crosby, and those things open up. And Kuntz missed last year.
Yeah.
People forget he had the injuries.
We haven't seen him since Christmas.
We have not, and that wiped him out of 2024. Well, he's back, and he looks to be something to have to be dealt with. But this week, hey, it's about area codes and zip codes, because earlier in the podcast, we dialed up the 514 area code. Could be 980 or a zip code of 878324.